This is episode 1 of Who in the World is Jesus? We're going to talk about Peter today and his first interaction with Jesus. We're going to get right into the story beginning at Luke chapter 5 verses 1. And we'll get right into unpacking it right afterwards. Okay. One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish." "Master," Simon replied, "we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let the nets down again." And this time, their nets were so full of fish, they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. Okay, guys, let's break this down a little bit, okay? The chapter just before this, Jesus was doing lots of healings, okay? So Jesus is about 30 years old at this point, and he's just beginning to become publicly recognized. And in the chapter just before, everybody's bringing their sick loved ones to him to be healed. And this has caused a pretty big stir. As you can imagine, if anything happened like that around here in this day and age, the crowds would be pretty incredible. Just imagining knowing that you'd come to somebody and have the potential of whatever that disease was, that sickness being healed by somebody. So that was just before this encounter where Jesus is now at the Sea of Galilee, and he's right at the water's edge, and the crowds are pressing into him to the point where he's almost about to go into the water. And there's a couple of boats on the shore, and he asks the owner of the boat, Simon, "Could I please get into your boat so that I could continue teaching?" And as he's in there teaching, I'm sure that he probably recognized the fact that Simon's boat was empty. Okay? And this is a pretty significant point. Okay? So he's sitting there teaching and going on with his teachings, and he finishes his teaching. And he says to Simon, he said, "Simon, push your boat out into the deep." And Simon's reply to him is one of probably defeat. He had been out all night fishing, and I think he was probably done, He was done in more than one way. But he says, "Jesus, at your word, at your command, at your ask, I will push my boat out." And they pushed it out to the deep. And Simon's nets are suddenly filling up with fish. So much so that he calls his partner in with the second boat. The partner comes out, and they literally fill 2 boats up with fish. okay? I'm guessing that they get all their fish into the boat, and this is what happens next. We're just going to get back into this one verse here. It says, when Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "O Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others with him. I find this just to be kind of baffling. Something about this interaction brings something out of Peter that was much deeper than just the joy of knowing that he pretty much won the lottery. I mean, he came back that night. This was their livelihood. I mean, he wasn't just fishing for fun. He didn't just have a bad day fishing. You know, we all know that a bad day fishing is better than a good day working. But this wasn't the case. This was his livelihood. When you come back from a whole night's fishing and don't catch anything, that's critical. But Jesus sees the need while he's in the boat. He sees that empty boat, tells Peter to go out. They fill up 2 boats full of fish. And Peter falls on his knees and says, "I'm sinful." This is a beautiful picture of who Jesus really is. That's the point of this whole series, is who is this mysterious man that we're always hearing about? But I love the fact that Peter knew who he was, that he knew that he was a sinful man. I'm sure that Jesus knew that he was a sinful man, but Jesus chose him anyways. This is the beauty of who Jesus is. This is the beauty of how Jesus works. He's not looking for the people that have it all together, but he's looking for the people that don't. I bet you we've probably wondered who this Jesus is because, you know, we hear that he's such a righteous man, you know. You need to be, everybody's talking about holiness and all these things that, like the religious, when we think of religion, you know, it's about the perfect. But it isn't about the perfect, and that is the beauty of this story. So Peter kind of wins the mega bucks on this one. This is, like we said in the last video, this is a story of someone who got a big gift that they didn't deserve, and it kind of crushed him. Falls on his knees. "I'm a sinner." And Jesus says, "Come with me, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." And this is the beginning of Peter's story. So when we say, his name was Simon, okay? If I said Peter, Simon becomes Peter. It's almost like a nickname that Jesus gives Peter. "I'm Simon." So if we talk about Peter, we're talking about Simon. They're interchangeable. But when we hear about Peter, Saint Peter, you know, it's just another person that's probably in our minds like, who is this guy? This is the guy. He was on a boat. He was just chilling out, minding his own business. And here comes Jesus, asked to jump in his boat, and changes the trajectory of his life. And this is the story of Jesus throughout history, generation from generation. People having encounters where they're never left the same. It's my story. It's countless others' story. So here's some points to remember, okay? Jesus is observant, and he knows the sticky parts of our life, okay? Jesus, he knows what's going on. He knows our tough times. He knows our struggles, okay? He met Peter right in his point of need. All right, so that's point number one, is that Jesus is observant. He knows what's going on. Point number two, Jesus is not judging the sinner, but invites him to follow him. Mind-blowing. It goes against everything that we know about him, or maybe that you've learned about him. So this is episode 1, guys. Episode 2, Jesus is going to be meeting a woman who he tells her everything that she's done. He knows her secrets, and he's gonna expose her in a beautiful way. So appreciate you guys joining me, and we'll see you on episode 2. Have a great one.